Hi guys, hope you're all keeping safe. Now on Wednesday's State of the Game, maybe yesterday depending on when this video comes out, the devs confirmed that TU10 will be coming next Tuesday the 16th, followed by Season 2 on the 23rd, and then the second raid, Iron Horse, coming sometime in July. They didn't actually commit to a date. They said early July, and then they said they're not sure, so sometime in July. Some of the things confirmed in the stream was the new exotics and where we're going to be able to find them. The one new global event coming, no raid matchmaking for Iron Horse, and when we might expect the title update 10 patch notes. Today I want to talk about this news because I think it's a little bit underwhelming, and you probably heard it in my voice when I did my State of the Game recap. I think it's underwhelming, especially for those people who cannot or do not want to participate in the raid. I encourage you guys to leave a comment with your opinion below. Drop a like if you enjoy this one. And let's begin. So let's start with the first thing, the new Season 2 loot. As we've known for some time, but now confirmed as just that only, Season 2 will be bringing 4 new exotics, 3 weapons, that is, and a mask, along with 3 new gear sets and 1 new brand set. There's also some, I believe, a new weapon as well. There may even be more than 1 new weapon. The new exotics are the SRS sniper rifle called the Mantis. Talents are your scoped view displays additional information about enemies not targeting you. Headshot and weak point damage against enemies not targeting you amplified by 50%. Headshot kills reset the cooldown of the decoy skill. This bonus will wait until the decoy goes on cooldown if currently active. We then got the mask, which is called Vial. Status effects also apply a damage over time debuff for 10 seconds. And total damage dealt is equal to 50% of your concussion grenade damage and increased by your status effect attributes. We then got the double barrel rifle, the Ravenous. On trigger pull, fire both barrels at once. When fired from the right shoulder, hits add offensive primers and defensive primers when fired from the left shoulder. Hits from one shoulder will detonate all of the opposite shoulder's primers when present. When detonated, each offensive primer deals 100% weapon damage, while each defensive primer grants plus 4% bonus armor and plus 10% amplified damage to armor plates for 5 seconds. Primer effectiveness is doubled at 10 stacks. And then lastly, we got the Magnum Revolver, the Regulus. Headshot kills create a 5-meter explosion, dealing 400% weapon damage and applying bleed to all enemies hit. Now, I don't know for sure if these exact numbers will make it into TU10, so we'll have to wait until the TU10 patch notes. But those are the 4 new exotics. Now, I've not been able to actually play or test any of these out yet because I'm on console, but new stuff is always good, and I don't think anyone's going to disagree with me there. The more the merrier from where I'm sitting. So why then is 50% of the new exotics tied to the raid? An activity 95% of the people are simply just not going to play. Now, that's not me saying the raid should not have 2 exotics, because it absolutely should, but only 2 can be acquired from the season itself. I just think this number needs to be boosted to at least 4, in my opinion. But guys, to be honest, this isn't really where the problem is. Season 2 is introducing 3 new gear sets. We have Future Initiative, Foundry Bulwark, which is essentially the only kind of tank gear set build in the game, and then System Protocol. But guess what? Future Initiative and Foundry Bulwark are raid exclusives, and only System Protocol can be obtained through regular season play. This means that 75% of the new gear sets are only obtainable through the raid, an activity that is for the 5%, which I personally don't get. Same as the exotics, I think having 2 gear sets behind the raid is absolutely fine and actually a good thing, as it gives those hardcore players more than the one thing to chase. With that said, I think regular season players who do not wish to participate in the raid should have more than just 1 new gear set to chase. I think at a minimum it should be equal to that of the raid, so it should be 2. And then when it comes to brand sets, I think we should have more than just 1 new one. For Season 2, there's actually going to be less content for Season 2 than there is for Season 1, if you can believe that, for anyone who doesn't participate in the raid. The devs confirmed we will be getting a new global event with Season 2, which, again, is very good news. As long as the global event follows the same template as Polarity Switch, and not the other 2, an event that rewards players with power for engaging with the mechanic efficiently, unlike the Guardians event, which for many reasons was just awful in my opinion, especially for solo players. What came as a surprise to me though was we will actually only be getting one new global event with Season 2, and they're going to be rotating Season 1 global events into that season as well. Season 1 had 3 global events. Season 2 is going to have one new one. You know, that's 33% of the Season 1 content for global events, which, again, is just frustrating, to be honest. I thought at first the Iron Horse raid was the cause of this stuff because of resources. I'd gone there, but this is being made at Ubisoft Annecy, so it's not that. So what is it then? Do you know what, guys? I don't know. I'm looking forward to the initial launch of Season 2 with the reward track and things, but I promise you, this is only going to last 24 hours because to me there's simply not enough new content to sustain the season, especially if you do not play the raid, which appears to be the main focus of this content drop, alienating 95% of the audience, to be honest. And what about matchmaking? Now, I've said before that I personally think the raid should have matchmaking, even if it isn't right away. Maybe there could have been matchmaking after 1 week or something. Now, I know some of you won't agree with me here. This is one of those highly debated topics which everyone's got an opinion on, and I completely understand the other argument, right? I get why. I'm not naive to the fact that matchmaking could be an absolute mess for players and teams of people who matchmake and go into the raid for the first time, with no mics, no team coordination, people just trolling and all of that stuff. But surely that's just up to those people, right? People who matchmake, they're not children. People who play this game are generally not children. They do know the possible difficulties of not forming a group and the repercussions and instead choosing to matchmake with randoms. People know it could be carnage and they could absolutely waste all of their time not even progressing past the first stage. The way I see it is this: it only affects them, right? It only affects the people who want to matchmake, no one else. If you have a very good group and you know how to play the raid, that's great, and you're going to be successful. But matchmaking, it's not affecting you in any way. It just gives those people who cannot or will not find a group a chance to play, with the low chance of actually being successful. I say this because I used to raid a lot on Destiny, and at one point had a well-organised group as well, but the best raid I actually ever run was actually from a random group of players back in the Taken King raid. This was a random mixture of people found on an LFG website, and we all joined, went through the raid. It was a really good time. I was pretty much new to the raid at that point as well. I'd run it a few times maybe, but I really didn't understand the mechanics all that well. Did it really good time. Actually, the fastest I've ever ran through a raid was during that one. Plus, it actually meant I got to meet some new people, which was always good as well. Now, appreciate this isn't quite the same as matchmaking, but how do you expect people to learn the mechanics if they can never find an 8-player group? And I say 8 like that because I think that's one of the major problems. The biggest advantage to having matchmaking is you open up over 50% of the new content to everyone, and not just to the 5% who managed to find an 8-player group. Like I said at the start, it doesn't have to be day one, although I don't see any reason why not. But I really think the devs need to have matchmaking. Let's not forget that when the raid was sold, it was actually sold with matchmaking, and then the devs changed their mind. Just going back to what I said about the 8 though, I guess that's the main problem with Division 2 raids, is they're an 8-player requirement. And that's just really unforgiving. Destiny 2 does not have matchmaking for raids, but it only requires 4 people, which is way more forgiving than 8 players, especially when the Division 2 player base is not where it was when the game released, or even when the Dark Hours raid was released. So I suspect that 95% I was talking about, or that 5% of people who will get to play the raid, is actually more like 2% of people that will play the raid. It's going to be interesting to see if they add matchmaking for the Skyscraper game mode. This appears to be a group-focused 4-player PvE mode that's going to require team synergy to get to the highest level. So if they do have matchmaking for that, what's the difference? Maybe they will tie only 50% of the new gear sets to it, instead of the 75% for the Iron Horse raid. Who knows? Look, I know I'm coming across salty here, but if you are a casual player, which I'm probably just going to say I'm probably consider myself to be a casual player at this point, then you are going to be getting very little with Season 2 if you're not playing the raid. because that's where most of the gear and stuff is going to be. And I haven't even talked about how Season 2 is using the same missions for the manhunt targets as Season 1, with no unique mechanics that we're aware of yet. It's Season 1 with about 50% less content. You know, where did it all go wrong, Massive, man? It actually makes me sad to make this video. Good news, though, I will say, is I'm excited for the TU10 changes, which look to vastly change up the M1A meta and make other weapons and builds viable. So that to me is a big plus, a big positive. Full red builds will likely still be the go-to for a lot of people, because it's still going to be the most effective way to clear content fast, but tank and skill builds, they appear to be more viable with TU10. Loot from control points and world activities are going to scale with difficulty, which again is great news. And whilst PvP is still likely going to be in a bad way, I may have to give it a try again. Without a doubt, the attention devs have made to try and make the game more fun, you know, with all the changes to NPCs and weapon power, all of that stuff is very much needed and very much appreciated. But this has to go hand in hand with new content, otherwise players are going to tune in once a week to complete the manhunt target, and then they're going to dip out and go and play somewhere else. This will likely be my trajectory the further into the season we go, especially if the global event rewards have not been vastly overhauled, along with the leagues as well, which I'm pretty sure it hasn't. I've heard nothing about them doing anything with those rewards, which will be a huge disappointment if nothing's been done about those. The Iron Horse raid is the Hail Mary for the next couple of months, that's for sure, and this was meant to come out last year. But that's it for today's video, guys. Negativity over with. TU10 patch notes should be out either tomorrow, or they'll certainly be out soon, and I will definitely be making a video on the TU10 patch notes. A lot of it we'll probably already know, but the devs did say that with phase 3 of the PTS being over, they have made or looking to make some changes before TU10 actually goes live, so we'll get to see what those changes are. And again, I'm very much excited to actually dip into TU10, use some SMGs, try some different builds out, all of that sort of good stuff. And again, I'm looking forward to the start of Season 2. I'm just a little bit concerned that my attention span for the season will very quickly dwindle as the season goes along. I'm hoping that Skyscraper mode isn't that far away, although I don't think it'll be out anytime this year, unfortunately. Thanks for all your support, guys, and until the next video, Epic out.